ESPN's NFL reporter Sal Paolantonio as he joins us here on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline, and he is back for a Sal Pal Friday, thanks to Johnny G and the Berger Real Estate team, Griner team at Berger Realty, 35 years of excellence in Ocean City and in Upper Township. Sal Pal is back. It's April. That means Sal Pal on the Sports Bash. How are you?
I'm great, Mike Gill. I'm doing fantastic. Thanks to Johnny G. I'm back with you on the Sports Bash, and we're only a couple of weeks, 3 weeks away from the NFL draft.
20 days. 20 days to the NFL draft, and I want to get some takes from you on that, but it's been about a month since we caught up, so we got a lot of things to kind of pick your brain on, and I guess I want to start with this one. So far, how has Howie Roseman handled the offseason?
Well, I mean, the trading of Carson Wentz got them a possible first-round pick next year, and that's pretty good. So, I mean, they had painted themselves into a corner, and they needed to find a way out of it. And I think he extricated himself pretty well, considering that Carson Wentz was adamant that he did not want to come back. So that's one. Two, I'm not really in agreement with the idea of moving back from 6 to 12. I think this Eagles team needs blue chip college players. If you look at the two teams that were in the Super Bowl, the Chiefs back-to-back, the Tampa Bay Bucks, you look at those two teams, they are filled with blue chip players picked high in the first round, with the exception of Tom Brady, players who have speed, who are young, and you have to get younger, faster, and stronger in the NFL, especially if the Philadelphia Eagles at 4-11-1. Now, they're going to get a good player at 12 if they stay at 12, but I would have liked to see them stay at 6 and get really a top 10 player.
You said if they stay at 12, would you be surprised if Roseman moved them out of that spot again?
I'm never surprised. Howie Roseman likes to wheel and deal on draft day. He may go up, he may go down. They may have a player they're targeting. They may just sit there and let a good player drop in their lap. My biggest issue is that they're behind the Cowboys for the second straight year now. And the Cowboys picked a blue chip player last year in CeeDee Lamb. And they're going to get another one. Mm-hmm. And they may get another one at a position that the Eagles really, really need. They're going to have a cover 2 defense, thank God. And they're going to rely a lot on their corners. And they've got to find somebody opposite Darius Slay. And I think they need to get a blue chip corner prospect on this football team. Pick one of them. I think they're all pretty good. But, if the Cowboys get the first one and the Eagles don't, that would be a disappointment, I think, to a lot of Eagles fans.
Now, you just said something interesting about Jonathan Gannon's defense, cover 2 defense. Do you think that they're going to come in, Jonathan Gannon and Nick Sirianni, and have a lot of pull on draft day to say, this is my defense, I need a corner?
Yes, especially on defense. I think that Jonathan Gannon was specifically brought in here as a major difference between him and Jim Schwartz. The wide 9 is gone. The single high safety is probably will be extinct for the most part. You will see 2 safeties back. They will protect the house and try to break down the protection a la Jim Johnson. And they will rely on their corners to cover. And they're going to want big corners who can tackle.
Yeah, well, they better not use the guys they currently have.
Right. So they need a corner. I think the number one need on this team right now is a corner.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
No question.
They don't have a starting corner opposite Slay, in my view, considering the defense they're going to run. I think they have a major issue at left tackle. We don't know what we're getting in terms of Andre Dillard coming back from that arm injury. Jordan Mailata played well enough to stay clean to the position, which is not good because Dillard was a first-round pick. And they don't really have an X-receiver in Nick Sirianni's offense. If you're going into this season with Travis Fulgham as your X-receiver, that's going to be challenging for Jalen Hurts.
That would be a very interesting conundrum at 12 if they're there and a receiver is on the board and a corner is on the board. Then what do you do?
I take the corner. It's a greater need. And, if you look at some of the receivers that, are there in the first round who are first-round talent, you already have one in Jalen Reagor. Reagor's the same size as a Waddle.
Well, here's another question then. If a player is starting to drop, you just mentioned you have both New York and Dallas sitting right in front of you at 10 and 11. It's going to be tough to jump over one of those two teams, right? Because they're not going to deal with Philadelphia. You're not going to call up New York or Dallas on draft day and say, hey, can I have 10? I'll give you 12. That's not happening.
Well, the natural spot is 8.
Okay.
The natural spot is 8. Now that Matt Rule has Sam Darnold, if he doesn't like any of the quarterbacks that are dropping at 8, and the Eagles really want one of those corners, and so do the Cowboys, then the Eagles and the Cowboys are on the phone with Matt Rule and Carolina.
Yeah.
And let the bidding begin.
Okay. Well, how about this scenario then? Sal Paolantonio, ESPN, with me here. One of those quarterbacks, now that Carolina has one, they get to 12, and there's one there for Howie Roseman. Does Roseman say, got to take him, or is he satisfied with what he already has?
Oh man, I don't know, Mike Gill. That's a tough decision right there. I don't see him taking a quarterback. There are people who do believe that he still would. I know some people think that he likes Mac Jones, but I can't see it happening. They just gave pretty good backup money to Joe Flacco.
Yep.
The owner just said through Chris Mortensen, a report that I absolutely believe, that Mort's the best in the business and has been for 2 decades, that the owner wants to build around Jalen Hurts. And this is why I'm skeptical of these reports that the Eagles are in the market to trade for Deshaun Watson.
Right. Actually, it was next on my list right here is that today it says if there's one team to watch closely as a destination for Watson, it would be the Eagles. As one league source explains it, the Eagles are sufficiently determined to upgrade the team that they would pursue Watson if the window opens for doing so. That is from Mike Florio at Pro Football Talk, that the Eagles would be one team that still has their eyes on this thing. And this thing is, who knows what's going to happen with this?
Well, you know how much I respect Mike Florio. I think he's super plugged in. Pro Football Talk is literally the number one website that I go to every day. And I just think, if he's put it out there, it has this, if there's smoke, there's fire. But, I'm skeptical because of the fact that they did sign Flacco. Lurie said basically on background through Chris Mortensen or somebody close to Lurie that they're going to build around Jalen Hurts. The other thing, too, is, if you look at Jeffrey Lurie, he's a deeply liberal person concerned with the rights of women. His master's in psychology from Boston University, a PhD in social policy from Brandeis, and his PhD dissertation, Mike, was entitled The Depiction of Women in Hollywood Movies. He's always been concerned about women's rights and the depiction of women in the media specifically. And that's an interesting reconciliation that he'll have to make. I realize they brought in Michael Vick, but this is different.
Yeah. Yeah, this one's, I agree with you. This is different. Mike Vick, he did give him the second chance. And that you mentioned how liberal he is. He is about giving people second chance. But you talked about his dissertation here. This is something that seemed to hit him a little bit differently than maybe that situation. So,
yeah, I think it's something that you have to put into the hopper. But that's not to throw, extinguish the report from Florio. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying that if they do that, he's going to have to reconcile these two diametrically opposed concepts.
Well, that's something.
There's the other issue of you just got rid of a quarterback, $130 billion quarterback who talked his way out of town. Do you want to bring in another quarterback, $130 million quarterback who's talked his way out of town?
Yeah.
I get he's a once in a generation talent, but you'll have to mortgage your future. And you'll really have to set aside a lot of the values that you have, depending on what happens in Houston. So I think it's a bank shot. It's a major bank shot.
Hey, Sal, I mean, the team did bring in a couple of veterans, Anthony Harris and Eric Wilson. These aren't two guys who just, were roaming the streets. These guys both can play. Were you surprised that they were able to get two players that are going to be starting caliber players in here in free agency? It
shows that they're really doing their homework. It shows that they're really combing through the NFL right now, trying to pick and choose some guys. And they're not making major commitments to them. But, they're plugging serious holes that they have on the team. And like I said, they're going to play cover too. They can't have enough safeties on this football team.
Anthony Harris, by the way, was with Jonathan Gannon. It was in Minnesota, I should say, 2017. Yep. So he knows both these guys pretty well. Now, yesterday, I had Lane Johnson on the show. I actually asked him if he would be interested in playing left tackle. Is that something that you could see them doing? Because you mentioned that you think they have a big problem at left tackle. Do you think they say, Lane Johnson, how about you play? Because he said he actually admitted that playing left tackle, that he would be more respected, he thinks, than being a right tackle.
Well, I've always advocated that they move Lane Johnson to left tackle. And this is the first that I've heard from Lane Johnson saying he would go there. Has he said it in the past? Not to my knowledge.
He basically, he acknowledged. He said, I actually have the bite. I can play it for you if you want to hear it. Here we go.
If I would have played left tackle, I feel like I probably would have maybe had a better career. I feel like you get more respect at left tackle. That's why you have guys like Orlando Brown moving to left tackle because they won't.
So, yeah, there you go. He mentioned that you get more respect by playing left tackle, and basically if they needed me to, that I would do it. I mean, he said he's never really been asked before, but I actually asked him.
Well, I think he's a warrior, Lane Johnson. He's certainly a leader on the team. If they asked him and he went over there, I think he'd do a terrific job. He's got to stay healthy. That ankle's got to stay healthy.
Yep.
But moving Mailata to right tackle and Lane Johnson to left, and then Dillard as a swing guard. Starting at right guard with Brandon Brooks coming back from an injury, that would be a significant upgrade, don't you think?
Which is why, I and Sal, you remember the 2012 team, Andy's last year. The offensive line had, 4 guys got hurt that year. That season turned into a mess. They fire Andy. They bring Chip in. Well, the next year they won 10 games. Well, it helped that the whole offensive line returned the next year, and they drafted Lane Johnson. That offensive line was a huge difference in them going from 4 wins to 10 wins, don't you think?
Yeah, an offensive line has been a central focus around the NFL this offseason, and all you have to do is look at what happened in the Super Bowl. One team protected their quarterback, and the other team did not. And you and I, all last year, talked about the domino effect of what happened last summer. The chief of officials, Walt Coleman, removed offensive holding as a point of emphasis. Offensive holding was down year over year, 2019 to 2020. And as a result of very few offensive holding calls, defensive coordinators said, well, if you're not going to call offensive holding, we got to blitz. Mm-hmm. And blitzing was at a 5-year high in 2020, according to ESPN stats and information. So you got to be able to protect the quarterback in the National Football League. And you look at the first thing Andy Reid did is he went out and signed a guard for major money.
Yeah.
So, you got to protect the quarterback. 65 sacks last year the Eagles gave up. Number 1 in the league. Clearly some of that was Carson Wentz's fault. But you had 13 different permutations on the offensive line, and that's going to get your quarterback in trouble.
And
especially a second-year guy like Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, I'll leave you with this, Sal. At 12, if one of those linemen's there, do they go offensive line or still corner?
I'm always a big believer in taking the best player on the board. If you draft specifically for need, then you're going to need another job.
All right, so that would be taking the lineman?
Yeah, I would take the best available player.
All right.
Yes, I'm always for taking the best available player.
20 days.
You know, that's why Howie Roseman always, has a penchant for moving down, because he looks at it and says, well, this best available player doesn't really fit what I need. So if I move down a few spaces, I can grab a couple of picks or a pick, an extra draft pick, and I can still get the guy that I need. My personal opinion, based on talking to a lot of people in the league over 25 years, is that's not the way to go. I think you have a chance to take a blue chip prospect at 6, you take them. And in the end, you'll wind up with a team of Travis Kelce's, Tyreek Hill's, Patrick Mahomes, and you'll wind up with a team like the Bucks with Levante David and Devin White. First-round picks. And you bring in a Leonard Fournette, a first-round pick. You stock your team with elite players, with speed, strength, size, and youth. And you win games.
Well, they got 11 picks this year. They've got 3 first-rounders potentially next year and $32 million of cap space open for next year. So let's see if they can get this thing right. Of course, they haven't done very well in the draft. 20 days away, the NFL draft right here on 97.3 ESPN. The coverage is April 29th at 7 o'clock on 97.3. And he's Sal Paolantonio, ESPN. And, of course, he, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline. All right, Sal, it's good to catch up, my man.
It is good. We'll do this every Friday from here out to the draft. Now we're locked in. Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be an intriguing time for the Philadelphia Eagles. No question in my mind.
All right, Sal.
And this is a critical draft and a critical season. This team right now is irrelevant at 4-11-1, and they got to get back in the saddle right away. They're not going to be sitting around, going 4 or 5 wins for 3 or 4 years. That's not the way Howie Roseman operates. He's going to be super aggressive. You watch.
They've had back-to-back losing seasons one time in the last 20 years. So history says back-to-back losing seasons doesn't happen here. So this could be an interesting season here coming up. Sal Pal back next Friday here on the Sports Bash. Sal, have a good weekend, my man.
Okay, brother.
All right. He, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline.